My jealous sister-in-law trapped me in a closet at my baby shower. I woke up in the hospital, and my mother-in-law punishment for her was left her shaking. Hi, so I'll get right into it. I've always had a very weird equation with my sister-in-law, and recently something happened that kind of pushed me over the edge, not just me, literally everyone in the family. I, 28 female, have been married to my husband, 28 male, for 3 years, and we have been together for 6. A couple of months ago, we found out that we were expecting our first child together, and we were thrilled about it. A few days ago this week, we decided to have a baby shower and invite our families and friends to our new house for the event. My sister-in-law, Connie, 30 male, and her husband were also invited to the event. Connie has been with her husband for 8 years and married for 5. And they have been trying to have a baby for a really long time but haven't been successful. Recently, they started their IVF treatments because even though neither of them had any fertility issues, they were still struggling with conceiving. Had she been a better person, I might have felt bad for her, but after what she did recently, I'm glad that she hasn't been able to conceive yet because she's crazy and honestly doesn't deserve to be a mother. Connie and I don't really get along, and I would say that it's her fault because I've always been cordial with her. But she just has a weird attitude about everything. Earlier, she used to be nice to my face, but I had heard from several of her family members that she constantly put me down behind my back and made fun of a lot of things about me. So I slowly distanced myself from her. And then eventually we got to the point where we were only nice to each other for the sake of our family and nothing more. So inviting each other to events was more of a formality, and we knew it. She had been invited to my pregnancy announcement party as well, and even there all she had done was sulk. And maybe I should have taken that hint and not invited her this time, but I didn't think much of it. Anyway, a couple of days ago I had my baby shower, and Connie and her husband also attended. They were one of the first few guests to arrive, so we had taken a few people on a house tour since it was a new home. And yes, this is quite an important detail. And anyway, after everyone had arrived and the baby shower was in full swing, I was speaking to a couple of friends when Connie came to my side and asked me if I could show her where our bedroom was, because she wanted to rest for a bit since she was feeling kind of nauseated. I thought that it was quite strange that she came to me and not her brother. But since I was busy with my friends, and also because I was heavily pregnant, I told her to find my husband and ask him since I really didn't feel like getting up. But she told me that she also wanted to speak to me in person and privately, which is why she had asked me specifically since she didn't actually need to rest, she just wanted to talk to me and needed an excuse for it. That made me a little curious, so I decided to excuse myself and got up to take her to the bedroom so we could talk away from everyone else. I actually thought that she was going to apologize for her behavior in the past or something because she was being really nice, and I guess that should have made me suspicious. But anyway, I didn't think of it and started walking with her to the bedroom. And here's the deal with our house. It's pretty big, and that means that our bedroom is quite a distance from the living room. There is a really long corridor leading up to it, and on one side of the corridor, we have something like a supply closet. So, while we were crossing there, all of a sudden, Connie grabbed me by the arm, shoved me inside, and locked me in. The closet was a small, dark, cramped room where we were storing a couple of unpacked boxes on the shelves, our vacuum cleaner, and a few mops. We hadn't yet installed lights in that room, and there was no ventilation apart from a tiny window that was situated really high up in the wall. Everyone in the family knows that I suffer from severe claustrophobia, so a room like that is pretty much the stuff of my nightmares. I started panicking as soon as Connie shoved me into the room, and I kept banging on the door and telling her to let me out. But I knew that there was no point, because she must not have stayed outside the door for long. And there was loud music playing in the living room where everyone was sitting because we wanted the baby shower to be fun for everyone. And it was more of a party than a shower. Besides, even without the music, there were a lot of people in the living room, and I'm sure they couldn't hear me above the conversation because the supply closet was a little distance away from the living room. In spite of that, I kept banging on the door and screaming for someone to come and help me until my voice gave out, and I honestly don't remember what happened after that. I guess I must have fainted because of my claustrophobia, since the only thing I remember after that was waking up in the hospital. Thankfully, I was lucky enough to be found about 20 minutes after I had left the living room since it was time to open the presents, but I wasn't even there, so people came looking for me. Apparently, after Connie had returned to the living room without me, she had told my friends that I needed to rest for a bit, and that's why I had chosen to stay in the bedroom and had sent her back to tell them. A pregnant woman choosing to take some time away from a party so she could rest wasn't all that strange. So nobody raised any questions because what Connie had done was so absurd it hadn't even occurred to anybody that she might have been lying. And then eventually, when it was time to open the presents, people started looking for me, and my husband started panicking when he realized that I wasn't in the bedroom like Connie had said. He had the good sense to check the supply closet, and there he found me on the floor, unconscious. It didn't even take a second to call the ambulance so he could rush me to the hospital because he thought that something serious had happened, and I had fainted because of some pregnancy-related complication since I hadn't even woken up when sprinkled with cold water. Our families drove behind us, and my sister stayed back home to handle all the guests until we reached the hospital, and I regained consciousness. Nobody discussed exactly why I had been in the supply closet in the evening, even though I'm the kind of person who refuses to enter that space while there is daylight because of how cramped and small it is. I remained unconscious for about 10 minutes, and when I woke up in the hospital, which is luckily just a few minutes away from our home, they ran some tests and stuff before telling my family that there was nothing they needed to be worried about. I'd just been knocked out cold because I had probably been in a very stressful situation, and my blood pressure had dropped to a dangerously low level. That bit wasn't surprising because ever since I got pregnant, I had been having a lot of trouble with my blood pressure and the way it was fluctuating constantly. And I guess the claustrophobia and the panic attack must have triggered me somehow, which is why I ended up fainting and remaining unconscious for 10 whole minutes. After I came to my senses, they took me home, and my sister made sure that all the guests were served food and told them that I was completely fine so that they wouldn't worry. Once I had come back home, nobody was in the mood to have fun anymore, so everyone went back home, and it was just me and our families who stayed so we could get to the bottom of what had happened. I felt exhausted, so even though I remembered exactly what had happened, I was in no mood to relive it, and I just wanted everyone to leave so I could go to sleep. But luckily for me, my friends who had been speaking to me before I left the room with Connie had heard the conversation between me and her, and they knew that it was Connie who had taken me out of the living room so we could go to the bedroom, and in all likelihood, she was the one responsible for this. So, before they left, they had told my husband about it. They didn't bother me that evening, but the next morning I found out from my husband that he had confronted Connie before the family had left, and while I was resting in the bedroom, they had been arguing in the living room. Our families were there, and so was he, and Connie kept denying that she had anything to do with locking me in the supply closet. She claimed that she had gone with me to the bedroom to apologize for always being cold and a bit mean to me all the time, and apparently we had made up for the last couple of years. And I told her that I wanted some time away from the party, so I stayed in the bedroom, and she came back. So, she really had no idea why I had ended up in the supply closet and denied having anything to do with it. And since it was just her word against my friends, they couldn't come to a conclusion that evening. But the next morning, I woke up in a much better condition, and after breakfast, my husband asked me what exactly had happened, and I told him everything. I told him I had kept banging on the door of the supply closet, begging Connie to let me out, but she probably hadn't even been there to hear me. He was furious and called the rest of the family over once again so we could deal with the situation, and this time I was present as well, so she couldn't deny what she had done. I remember that morning Connie showed up looking really sick and pale because she probably knew that she was screwed. Her husband also looked worried, but I don't think that he knew exactly what his wife had been up to. Anyway, I recounted what had happened that evening and confirmed the fact that Connie was the one who had pushed me into that closet and left me there. Everyone seemed horrified, and nobody really knew what to say because I don't think anybody wanted to believe that somebody they had known for so long was capable of doing something so horrible. Truth be told, I get that because, no matter what kind of relationship I had with Connie, even I had found it very difficult to believe that she had done something so unhinged. But that was the truth. She had tried to harm me on purpose, and I didn't even feel safe around her anymore. After I was done talking, my mother-in-law, Pam, was the first one to speak up. She sounded really disappointed and resigned and said that she should have seen this coming because, for the past couple of months, Connie had been absolutely livid with me. The reason for that was that she felt like I was rubbing it in her face, the fact that I was pregnant before her, even though she had been married for longer than me. She had even said that she was very unhappy with the fact that I would be the first woman in the family to give Pamela a grandkid and not her. But Pam thought that these ramblings against me were just harmless and petty, so she never brought it up with us. But she had no idea that Connie would go out of her way to do something like this out of anger and jealousy. At that point, Connie started crying and said that she hadn't done this out of anger, but it was only meant to be a harmless and innocent prank. She claimed that she had no idea that this was going to go so wrong, and she had actually intended on just leaving me locked in there for a couple of minutes as a prank. And then she would let me out and apologize for not just locking me in, for her behavior towards me for the past couple of years. She said that she had completely forgotten about the fact that I was severely claustrophobic, and when she realized that I had fainted in the supply closet, she knew that people would think that she had done this on purpose, and that's why she had chosen to lie about the previous night because she was scared of the consequences. But now she did not want anyone in the family to misconstrue what she had done, and she had done it. So she insisted that it was just a prank and she didn't really intend to harm me. Unfortunately for her, nobody really believed her because, well, it wasn't very believable. And I was very pissed off that she had put me through so much just because she was upset that she wasn't getting pregnant, as if it was my fault. I hadn't even been rubbing it into anyone's face like she was saying. I had only held a pregnancy announcement a couple of months back, and now this baby shower. As far as I'm concerned, these are very common events pregnant people host, and they are not meant to rub the pregnancy into anyone's face. If that's how she felt, that was her own fault and insecurity showing. Also, what she had said about me being the first woman to give Pamela a grandkid was just disgusting because this wasn't a competition or a race. The bottom line was that she was upset that she hadn't had any luck in getting pregnant, and I hadn't even been trying, but I still got pregnant. And it sucks for her that she's having to deal with fertility issues in spite of having all normal results, but that's really not my fault or my problem. And I had had enough rest, so I was furious the next morning, and I told Connie that for the past couple of years, she has been nothing but weird with me, but I had never even done anything to her. In fact, I had always tried to be nice to her, and she was the one who had constantly faked it with me and then gone behind my back to talk crap about me. Even then, I had stayed dignified and just distanced myself from her, but it seemed like she was just never happy and wanted to make sure that she created enough problems for me. I told her that I could understand that she was feeling jealous and insecure, but for somebody to act like this was just demented, and I did not feel safe around her anymore. I told her that she was a horrible human being for what she had done. Even though nothing had happened to me, something very easily could have happened, and I knew it was not a prank like she was trying to pass it off as. I knew that she saw me as competition, but unfortunately, I was not competing with anyone, and she had no right to drag me into this for no reason. Then I told her that I did not want her visiting or speaking to me anymore, and then I turned to everybody else and said that if they spoke to her again, then I would not speak to them. So it was either going to be her or me. And that's when started protesting, saying that I had no right to do that, especially when she had just been playing a prank. I could see that both she and her husband were actually worried, but I had said whatever I had to say and they could go on screaming, but it didn't matter since I knew that the rest of the family was also going to agree with me. Eventually, Connie got way too loud, and my mother-in-law had to step in. She told Connie to stay quiet because this was just a consequence of her own actions, and she had lost the right to protest against it. And then she said something that shocked us all. She backed me up and told me that I was right. It wouldn't be possible to look at Connie the same way, because what had happened was just insane, and nobody was going to believe her claim of it only being a prank. Then she went on to say that she was cutting Connie out of her life for now, and maybe in the future they would be able to make up. But right now, she didn't want anything to do with her. And that also meant that she was no longer going to be paying for the IVF treatments, so they would have to look for some other way to deal with it. My father-in-law, who is a generally quiet man and mostly lets Pamela do all the talking, also agreed with this, and I'm not even exaggerating. Connie and her husband literally erupted at that point. They started screaming at Connie's parents and said that they couldn't do this since everyone knew that they were really desperate to start a family. And they couldn't afford the IVF treatments along with everything else that was going on, so Connie's parents had been their only hope. For context, my in-laws are quite rich, but Connie's husband's parents aren't exactly on the same level, so they couldn't have approached them for help. Connie and her husband have just started a new business. It's barely been a few months, so they haven't managed to break yet, which is probably why they were relying on Connie's parents for the money for the treatments. We didn't know about that before it was brought up by them, and it was a huge deal that they were backing out of it since Connie had been pretty desperate to have a baby. When Connie and her husband started screaming hysterically, Pam stood her ground and said that given her current state of mind and the way she was behaving, she thought it was best for her not to have a baby right now. And I couldn't agree more. Nobody had anything to say, and Connie just broke down and kind of just fell to the floor while crying, and it was pretty pathetic to see her like that. But I wasn't going to go back on my word. She continued to sob on the floor for about 5 minutes, and nobody said anything during that time. But then she got up, and I thought that she was going to speak to her mother. But she came directly towards me and actually started begging for forgiveness. And I mean, she was really begging. She was on her knees and everything and said that she was genuinely and truly sorry for what she had done, but she knew that I could make this right by speaking to Pam. And I just had to do it. Pam tried to be gentle with her and told her that her mind had been made up, and not even I could change it, but Connie was not ready to listen. She was just hysterical, and I don't think she was in her senses at the time. It was kind of awkward, so I didn't even know what to say, and I really felt bad for her, but there was nothing that I could do. After a while, her husband grabbed her and got her to stand back up, and while she was still crying, he walked out with her and left us all still trying to process what had happened. After that, everyone went back home, and it's just been me and my husband since then. We haven't been speaking about what happened with Connie because it was sad after one point, but right now, I've been feeling a little weird about it. I know that what she did to me was terrible, but I was the one who put forth an ultimatum for the rest of the family and forced them to cut her off. And that also meant that she couldn't have a baby because it meant no more IVF treatments. So I've been wondering if I was a jerk for doing that or not, and that's what I wanted to know, which is why I'm here for an objective opinion. AITA for telling my family and my in-laws to choose between me and my sister-in-law? Update 1. Hey everyone, I would just like to first thank everyone who responded to my post and commented on it. The majority of the comments agreed that I'm not the one at fault here, so I'm pretty relieved because I had been feeling very heavy and guilty after what had happened. I guess I just hadn't expected her to beg for forgiveness like that. And she had been pretty hysterical, so I guess I started feeling bad for her. I still kind of feel bad for her, but to be honest, this was something that she deserved. It wouldn't have been fair for her to get away with all of this scot-free because, regardless of what her intention had been, I still don't know if it really had been meant to be a prank or not, but the consequences of it were not really good for me. And to be honest, I think I'm still going to stick by what I had said about her not being ready to be a mother just yet. If she's acting like this, so unhinged and irresponsible just because she's pissed at me, then I'm not sure how she thinks she's ready to handle a baby. It's very obvious to me, and I think it's clear to Pam as well, that Connie has some serious issues, so until she deals with that, I think it's better for her to stay away from motherhood. I've spoken about this with my husband, and I told him that I've been feeling really bad about what happened with Connie, but he told me not to worry about it. Apparently, his sister had always been a bit of a hothead, but everyone had thought that she had left that kind of behavior back in her teens. She used to be one of your typical vindictive mean girls back in high school and even in college, but this was not just mean, this was downright cruel. And I knew that she had always had a mean streak in her, but for her to manifest it in waves like this, I don't think anyone had seen that coming. Anyway, my husband reassured me, and after that, I felt considerably better about all of this, so I'm going to try and put it all out of my head now and just focus on having a happy rest of my pregnancy. Update 2. Hey, so 8 days have passed since my baby shower, and since the event didn't exactly end well, we hosted a formal dinner for everyone tonight to make it up to them. And obviously Connie and her husband were not invited this time. I hadn't opened any of the gifts, so I decided to open them today with all my friends and family around me. We were all having quite a nice time until dessert was served because that was the time around which Connie decided to make a post on social media calling me out on my behavior. Yeah, the irony is astounding that after everything that has happened, she is the one who's calling me out. I had blocked her shortly after the incident had taken place, so I didn't know about the post. But she had tagged a couple of my friends and a few family members on it, so they were notified and read it out to me. It was ridiculous. She had posted that apparently I had always been in competition with her, and I had really thought that I won when I got pregnant before her, and she acknowledged the fact that she had lost her temper a couple of days back during my baby shower and had locked me in the closet. But my way of retaliation has been a lot more severe than what she had done. She posted that I had forced her family to cut her off and made sure that she wouldn't be able to get pregnant by convincing her mother not to contribute to her IVF treatments anymore. But unfortunately, my plan was not going to work because they had decided to pay for the IVF treatment themselves, and they were definitely going to have a baby, so the rest of the family could cut her off. But it was not going to make a difference to her because she was determined to become a mother and start her own family. And that family would be far better than the one she was born into, since apparently both her family were too busy sucking up to me instead of looking after the only daughter that they had. I tried really hard to feel offended at that post, but honestly, it was just such a huge joke that I ended up laughing at it, and everyone else followed me. So we brushed it off as a big joke and didn't even talk about it because I wasn't going to let Connie ruin an event for me a second time. I'm pretty sure that she had picked this day on purpose as well to make that post because she wanted to gain sympathy and attention. But unfortunately, nobody really has any of that to spare for her. Not after what she has done, at least. Update 3. Hey, so I have great news for everyone. I recently gave birth to a really beautiful, healthy baby girl. She is 6 weeks old now, and I already love her more than anything in this world. In fact, my husband and I are already fighting over who loves her more, but we know for a fact that we love her the most. Motherhood has been beautiful so far, and I've had my fair share of struggles, but this has made it worth it. But this update is not going to be about my daughter, even though I could totally go on writing about her. This is actually going to be about Connie because she's getting divorced, and I'm honestly not surprised that this is happening. I heard from a couple of people that she and her husband have been living separately for the past couple of weeks, and they have fully announced on social media that due to irreconcilable differences, they are going to be separating. Apparently, they had tried really hard to make it work in the past couple of months after the incident with me, but I guess the stress of everything just got to them, and they can't be together anymore. And I don't think it's going to be an amicable divorce because they have decided to sell their business, and had it been a mutual thing, I don't think they would have tried to do that because that business was their first baby, and they had put in a lot of hard work into it. It's sad that they are separating, but not very shocking. Connie's parents are still not speaking to her, though, even though I have told them that I would be fine with it if they decided to get back in touch with her after the news of the divorce broke. But they told me that unless she apologizes to everyone and does it sincerely, they are not interested in having any contact with her. Honestly, I count myself to be very lucky that I have such supportive and loving in-laws because I don't think everybody has been blessed by people like them in their lives. My own parents have also been incredibly supportive ever since I gave birth, and even before that, and I feel really lucky that I have such a great support system around me. Connie could have had the same for herself if she had just bothered to be nice to the people around her, but well, that was never one of her strong suits. At this point, I don't even feel angry, I just feel bad for her. She could have had a good life regardless of the unexplained fertility issues, but she chose this for herself. Anyway, that's none of my concern anymore, and I just felt like I had to share this here so I could get it out of my system. But now all I'm going to do is focus on raising my daughter, and yeah, I can't wait for all the great parts of motherhood.